Hello, so I'm doing this video because I recently had the catheter ablation for SVT, and I found that about a week before the ablation, I was very anxious and I was looking at some videos on the internet. I could find some answers, but not all of them. So I just wanted to share my experience of living with SVT, what led me to the ablation, how it happens, the ablation, what's going on the day, and also what happens after. So this is 1 month after my ablation, because there are some things that I wasn't expecting, and I just want for people to have another experience out there. And if it can help um, someone feel less anxious about it or help in some way, then that would be great. So first of all, I'm going to tell you a little bit what SVT was for me my whole life, and how it led me to the ablation. So I've had SVT since I'm a child. I think the first crisis I can remember, I was probably 7, starting having my heart beating really fast. My dad panicked. We went to the doctor. I threw up when I arrived and the crisis stopped. And this is the first one I can remember. After during my childhood, I had also from time to time. We went to see multiple doctors, but it's very hard to catch a crisis because when you go there, usually I didn't have anything anymore. So people just tell you, oh, it's stress, probably a stress person. You just need to relax a little bit, and everything is normal with you, everything is fine. And I do remember that I think I wasn't paying much attention to it for a while because it was happening maybe once, twice per year. But as I grew older, it started bothering me more. So I had more often some crises. And same thing, I went to several cardiologists. I never managed to have a crisis during. So I really thought that I just had an anxiety problem and that was it. But something is not quite right because, well, it happens so suddenly and goes away so suddenly. And at sometimes I was like, yeah, I'm not stressed at the moment, so it doesn't make too much sense. And so I went on like this until the age of 28. And you must know that the crisis that I had, of course, depend from person to person, but I think mine last from about 2 minutes to half an hour. I think the longest I've ever had was until 45 minutes. And I always managed to stop it by myself. So without even knowing what I had, I already had some techniques that I used to stop it. And as I grew older, I started knowing myself better. So I knew that for me to have this fast heart rhythm, I needed to be careful about a certain number of things. And I don't know if everybody that has SVT has the same triggers as me, but I would have a crisis if I was very tired, if I was dehydrated, if my belly was upset, if I had eaten something that I think it's related as well to your whole digestion system. Of course, if I would be stressed, if I had strong emotion, if I bend forward for some reason, changing position could trigger it as well. Drinking coffee, drinking alcohol, so all these kind of things I try to avoid as much as possible, but of course, it's not that easy, and sometimes out of the blue, it can just happen. You are in the supermarket, minding your business, not even thinking about it when a crisis starts. And what I would do in this case, I would never say to people around me that I have this crisis, because I knew that it was going to stop at one point. And if I was going to tell someone, they would kind of panic. And at this time of crisis, I really want to be left alone and not to add additional stress to what's going on. And I have a few techniques that I use to stop the crisis. So the first one is changing position. So if you if I try to sit down already kind of helps, like already try to release some of the pressure that you had on your heart when you are walking or you're doing some exercise. I try to tune it down to start with. And if I'm in public, you cannot go lay down or do something like this. I'll just try to take a big breath, block my breath for a few seconds, and then release it very slowly. And if I do it two times, at one point, I would feel that it would work. Something else that I can do as well is if I'm in the workplace and this happens, I try to go to the bathroom and adopt kind of a yoga position. So I go into a ball like this so that I feel pressure coming in the upper part of my body, as if you were going to put yourself upside down, kind of. I start to feel pressure coming here. And then the same, I do this blocking breath and trying to breathe deeply. It would work. And something that I read in the comments somewhere and that I found very true is that the fastest I could do these maneuvers and try to stop it, the shorter lived the crisis would be. But if I took too long to do this, then I knew that I was going to start for 20 minutes, half an hour. And all of this was before I got diagnosed. So I had these things. And when I got diagnosed, I knew that there are other techniques that people can use when you lay down. It doesn't really work for me. I think it depends probably from person to person. This thing of having cold water on your face really doesn't work for me as well. But if I have a glass of water, sometimes it helps. Very cold glass of water. So I think this depends on everybody. So I know something was wrong with me. So I went to the cardiologist several times. They did me a Holter. So they keep monitoring your heart for one day, the first time, nothing came out of it. I redid the same thing the year after. Each time they checked if my heart was healthy, and they say, yes, there's no problem with it. You do the stress test of doing exercise, yes, no, nothing, everything perfect. And the second time I have this Holter on, I was climbing the stairs back to my flat, and I was feeling a little bit maybe stressed or tired. Something that I didn't mention as well is, as a woman, when you have your period, as well increased the chances of me having a crisis. So I was in this time, and I know that something could happen. I could kind of feel these bad days. I went up the stairs and I felt, if I bend down now, I'm pretty sure I'm going to have a crisis. And I had the Holter on. And I said, you know what, if I have to have a crisis today. So I bent forward and I got a crisis. Did my maneuvers, put myself in a ball. After 10 minutes, stopped it. And I was so happy because I finally managed to have one recorded. So I went to the cardiology, gave them my reading, and had the result. So they told me, yes, you have something, you have this rhythm problem, which is supraventricular tachycardia, SVT. And they explained me how it works. And I was so relieved because I could finally know what was going on. I knew what this was. And I remember crying on that day because they told me, yeah, you're not going to die from it. Because when you have this crisis and you don't know what it is, sometimes you think, is it going to get out of control, or is it something going wrong? Is this crisis different from others? And now that you understand the mechanism of it, you're like, okay, so I can have this crisis. They're annoying, but they are not gonna kill me. And this was a big relief. And the cardiologist at the time also told me, yeah, and there is even a permanent cure for it if you want, which is catheter ablation. And this was 3 months before I was moving from one country to another. So she told me, yeah, we can do this ablation if you want, this procedure in 2 weeks from now if you want. And I just discovered that I had this SVT. So I said, give me some time to think about it, to digest, process all this information. And I also wanted to get another opinion from a second cardiologist before I do such a big procedure. But I was already relieved, so I waited a little bit. She asked me if I wanted to take any medication, and I said no. And the reason for this is that I have no health problem beside from that, and I don't want to be on medication on my whole life. So I was going to try to live with the crisis, knowing that it wasn't going to kill me, and I would have always this option. This option is not going to go away, so I have time to think about it. So that's what I did. So I moved country. I had more and more crises, and when I think I have at least 2 per month, but on some days I could have 2, 3. So, and always unpredictable. So that's the worst part. And I think it started taking a hold on your life at some point, because there are some activities I was afraid to do. I was always trying to avoid having a crisis, and it started waiting on me a little bit, like going for a drink with my colleagues after work. I know that after a long day of work, I'm tired, and if I add alcohol on top of it, I'm probably going to have a crisis. So I would have soft drink, and even though, because sometimes I'm just too tired, I would have some crisis and I would have to go home earlier, and I don't always want to have to explain to everybody why I am leaving earlier, because everybody worries about you. There are some places I didn't want to go too much. I was afraid of traveling by myself, going too far from a place that would have a hospital if I ever need to. Yeah, so it started being a lot of things. And I went to see this second cardiologist who told me the same thing as the first one. Before medication, now we start recommending catheter ablation because it has a very high success rate for curing SVT. Of course, there are some risks, and he explained them to me. But I mean, there is any operation that you are going to do always have some risk. And I think this is probably more scary because this is your heart. But I said, I don't want to live with that anymore. I want to live a normal life for once. So, and I don't want to have to worry about that anymore. I'm young, so I'm gonna go for it. And he put me on a waiting list. Then COVID came along, and I thought it was going to take forever, but in fact, not so much, because about a month and a half ago, I got a call from the hospital telling me that they could do the procedure in a week and a half. And at first I thought it was quite short time, to tell you that. Like, I don't know why I thought I would have need more time to get ready or prepared. But in fact, it's more than enough, because during this week and a half, I stressed so much. I think I lost two kilos because I was so afraid. Because you start thinking, am I doing the right thing? Because after all, I can live with SVT. It's just annoying. So am I really going to gain? Is anything going to happen? Because of course you start thinking about the little small chance that something can go wrong. So I started looking as much as I could as testimonies, like the one I want to do today to help other people. And yeah, and reading as much information as I could, because I am a scientist and I like to understand what's going on and what is going to happen. I'm the kind of person that if I go to have a blood test, I need to look at the syringe to know what's going on. I don't like not to know. So I got as much information as I could. I could understand that, yes, catheter ablation is quite safe, that this is quite a common procedure now, and that it is indeed in front of medication to do what we can. So of course, I think it probably depends on your own case, so it depends on what the cardiologist is going to tell you. But for SVT, it looks like this is the go for procedure. And of course, there are some risks, but I think that you are in the best place to be if anything goes wrong. You are going to be in a place where they already have everything ready in case you need a pacemaker, in case you need anything, and the chances of this happening are very low. So arrived the day of the procedure. I was very scared. Actually, I had to do a COVID test before for the hospital self-isolate, which is what I was expecting anyway. I arrived the day of the procedure. The nurse had called me a little bit earlier to tell me what to expect. She told me, don't shave. We just shave for you because people just tend to shave more than what you do because they are going to insert the catheter on the top of your leg. So sometimes people shave or not. She told me no need if I had any questions. I don't think I had any questions. She said, yeah, you're going in the morning, you'll be back in the evening normally. And in the place I was going, they weren't going to sedate me completely. So you're awake during the procedure. I'll talk about that in a minute. So I know what to expect. And I was still super scared. I arrived there. I had a room for myself, which was nice. And they did a blood test, I think, to check if you are in good health for the day, if everything is going on, if you have any fever. So I didn't have any fever. They checked my heart. They said that the rate was a little bit high, and to which I said, of course, I'm super stressed. And there's nothing you can do about it. It's just a matter of waiting for it to be over. I had to wait 2 hours and a half, which was probably the hardest part. I was petrified, but the nurses were very nice because they know, I think everybody that goes there is also super scared because it's your heart. So they try to make some jokes, etc. It didn't help too much, but it was okay. Then what happened? I think, yeah, I got to see the cardiologist that was going to do the procedure came to see me. She told me that I was going to be next if I had any more questions. So I wanted to know what kind of SVT I had exactly. So there is no way they know exactly. There are several types, and depending on the type where it is, they are going to ablate, so to burn different areas of your heart, and it can be more difficult or more simple. And she said, we only know when we are going to do the study, the electrophysiology study at the beginning. So okay, fair enough. And I think that's it. And after she said, I'm going to have a quick lunch, we come back, and after you next. So I waited a little bit more. Then a lady from I think it was a nurse, came to see me, and she said, okay, let's go to the theater. And it was quite funny because I went there, so I was in my hospital gown. I went there walking in the corridor. I arrived in the theater. There was, I think, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, maybe 7 people, 7 or 8. So you had some people that are going to take care of your anesthesia. I think some operate the X-ray and some operate per se the mapping of the heart and what's going on, and you have the head of it, so the cardiologist. So they all say hi to me, how was going. So I told them I'm a little bit nervous. They let me sit down, and they put kind of a cold patch on your back. So I think this is probably to help with the X-ray. Then they put me down. So you lay down completely. They didn't attach me or anything. It was just lay down there. They put me sedation. So they already had the IV that they had put in the morning, and they kind of put a small sedation that helps you. I think it's mostly for the pain, so that you don't feel pain when they're going to put the catheters, everything. And it's supposed to relax you, but honestly, I didn't feel more relaxed. No. And I was completely conscious the whole time. But I think my notion of time was distorted. So I must have been drugged, but maybe not enough that I wasn't stressed, which is probably a good thing as well, because they need to induce the SVT. So I think it helps. So they put me down. They give me this painkiller through my vein. And so I couldn't see my legs very much, and they have this big X-ray machine that is on top. And I think they they insert the catheter down your legs. So I couldn't see it. I couldn't feel anything really. I couldn't even feel anything in my body really. The only thing that I saw is the X-ray machine going up. So I think they just trace where the catheter is going until it goes to your heart. And when it's in my heart, I didn't feel that it was there. So I just had the X-ray machine on top of me going from the right to the top, because I think it needs to do a 3D image of it. But what I did feel, and that is really not funny, this is the most unpleasant part, is once it's all set up and they are going to start doing the study, so you have the cardiologist. I'm not a doctor, so I don't know what they say, but she was telling them where to put the catheter, I think, and with what electric impulse they are going to take. So I was hearing, put it there and put that voltage here. And after you feel your heart going like in all kind of weird rhythm that you have no control of. So this is really not pleasant at all. But they managed to trigger the SVT very fast. I think in the second position they went, it started going into SVT. So I was kind of relieved, because I know it was a good sign. If they managed to trigger the SVT, they can know where it comes from, the problem, and they can try to fix it. So it looked like it was going well. They went, and you go to SVT, but they know how to stop it. So you don't stay in SVT for too long. They managed to, I don't know exactly how they do, but you feel that they can turn it on and off as they want. So they try not to leave you too long in SVT. I think they just try to see where it is. To give you an idea, I think it must be a few minutes, not more than that, at least in my case. And after they went around other parts of my heart, I think, to check if there isn't any anomaly anywhere, they found another one, which was way faster in terms of tachycardia. And I heard them talk between each other because they weren't really sure what was going on. So the doctor told me after that they weren't sure what to do. So they went for the one that they knew, the first one. And it turns out that the first pathway that I have was AVNRT. So it means that the electric circuit is very close to the AV node, so the central part of your heart. They ablated this one. So I think they changed catheter from what I understood, from what I perceived, because I was half drugged at the time. And they burned it, didn't feel a thing. No idea what they did. Never felt pain. And okay, they ablate, wait a little bit, and come back and try to make the SVT go again. And in my case, they didn't manage to make it go again, which means that they had found the place and burnt it. And they decided to go on the second one for me to see if it was still going to run, but the second one wouldn't trigger. So they think that they were probably connected, the two, and by taking care of the first one, it just solved the problem. So that was it. And I think it lasted maybe 1 hour and a half. It was short. And when I was laying down, I really didn't have any pain, and it felt that it was super quick breathing. And the whole time people were telling me what was going on, and they told me, okay, it's done. We're going to remove the catheter now. And they remove it the same. You don't even feel a thing. They remove the X-ray from you, and they say, okay, now just stay laying down like this. Don't move your leg. And we are going to bring you back to your room. I went to the room. The doctor, so the cardiologist, came to see me again. And she explained me that it was a VNRT, what they had done, and that they think they got it. And what to expect after. She said, yes, you're going probably to have what starts like a palpitation crisis, like a tachycardia crisis, but it's not gonna happen. And if you get a crisis, you should contact your cardiologist again and see what's next. And she just left me there. There was a nurse that came, I think, once every half an hour to check if I wasn't bleeding from the leg, and I was also, my heart was being monitored but everything was normal. I was even more relaxed in the morning because I knew it was done. And yeah, and I wasn't bleeding. And progressively, they put me to stand up, like to sit up. And the only reason they do this is so that you don't bleed from your leg, because it's femoral artery, I think. So it's a big, well, it's a big vein or artery that goes to your heart. So of course you don't want it to open. They just want to make sure it's closed. And I think 3 to 4 hours after they discharged me, say, okay, you can go back home. Just make sure you don't bath, that you don't put water on your wound, and everything should be fine. Just be careful not to lift anything. Take some rest, take it easy. So I had taken some days off of work. Came back home. That night, everything was fine. We checked. I remember putting the alarm in the night to check on my legs from time to time, just to check it wasn't bleeding. Nothing really. They said that you can take a shower if you want the next day. So I didn't really take a full shower. I just more refresh myself with some towels and all. And I didn't have any pain ever after the procedure. I did have kind of a discomfort here, like, you know, something is a little bit off, but it's not really painful. What I did have, though, is that I was absolutely exhausted. Just the fact from going to the bed, to the bathroom, would put me out of breath. And that was for like 2 to 3 days. So I saw testimonies of videos of people going back to work or going on walks after and doing all these kind of things. Well, I don't think everybody can do that, because I spent a good 3-4 days doing, not being able to do much. So this is good for people to know, I think. And something else as well that I wasn't expecting is I had a lot of ectopic beats. And when I say a lot, it's once every 3 beats for 7 days. And that was very bad. It made me think, did I do the good choice? Did I make things worse? What just happened? And this is not tachycardia crisis that I'm talking about. This ectopic beats, I think it's premature beats. And we folks that are all tuned to our heart, we can distinguish it. And it feels like a pause of the heart, then a big beat. And I had a lot. So much so that I called the arrhythmia nurse of the hospital. I told her, okay, I have these beats once every 2 beats. I'm so tired. Is this normal? And she said, yeah, it's the heart healing and it's inflamed. As long as you don't have tachycardia, it's fine. So, okay, that was a little bit annoying these days. And I was looking forward to sleep, because at night I wouldn't feel it. And 5 days after the ablation, I really had so many. I decided to go to the hospital to go do electrocardiogram, spend the night there for them to monitor me. And in the morning, I saw another cardiologist who said, well, it's not, it's just how your body is reacting. It's not going to be every of you guys, but I think it's good to know that you can have this, that you are having a lot of ectopic beats, that it's nothing to worry about. It's gonna go down with time. Don't worry about it. So that was good for me to hear and to have it monitored anyway, because apparently I started going into Gemini, I think it's what it's called, when you have one normal beat, one abnormal beat, one normal beat, one abnormal beat, and it can stay like this 10 minutes, 20 minutes, and this is really not comfortable. And yeah, that was it. But I came back home and I was reassured in some way. Continue to take it easy. So in total, I took a good 10 days of work, and things got better over time. So that's mostly why I want to say the video. Okay, if you have a lot of ectopic beats, don't worry, it's gonna get better. So little by little, I started having less and less. And by that, I mean, I would start having 2 hours period in the afternoon, 3 hours period, 4 hours without ectopic beat. And I was so happy to have these periods because I could sleep. I could finally rest during this time. And this time of resting period started getting bigger and bigger. And after 2 weeks and a half, I managed to have a day with maybe just a few ectopic beats, like once, twice in the morning and twice in the afternoon. And also little by little, I started walking more. I was doing the block around my house. The first week it was very hard for me to do it. I was coming back home and I would just lay down and I was so tired. And over time, I managed to do more and more and more, always at my rhythm. I never pushed. And now it's been a month. And I go to work walking, which is half an hour walk to go and half an hour to come back. No problem. I climb stairs, no problem. I started doing exercise, no problem. These ectopic beats have disappeared. I just have one or two from time to time, but like any normal person have. And I didn't have any crisis since, which is good because in normal time, these ectopic beats would have triggered so many crises and I didn't have a thing. And I can feel from time to time as if my heart wants to go in crisis, but it doesn't. So I think this is something I will have to get used to now. And oh yes, I forgot to tell you about the wound in the leg. So to give you an idea, I think it's the size, I have like 2 small apertures, the size of a grain of rice. Okay, it's very, very small. It took a week to close completely. And I think it's going to disappear and nothing's going to show of it. So far, 1 month after the ablation, everything is good. Had trouble the first week. Everything is fine now. I guess only time will tell if it really worked, but I think that only the fact that I didn't have already with all these ectopic beats, and it's been a month and I didn't have a crisis, so this is wonderful. And I just wanted to say to people out there that I was super scared before the ablation, like probably all your folks are. And I try to give you as much information that I can about the procedure. And honestly, if I can manage to live without a crisis, this is so much worth it. And I think that if right now I would have a crisis and they would say, okay, we need to go through a second ablation, I would be like, okay, I know how this is now. I know that it's maybe not that much to worry about. And the whole time during the ablation, I was trusting the team that was there. They know what they were going. I went through the data on the hospital. I saw that they do this all the time, that the labs are pretty clean, pretty up to date. It's all new equipment. And I think this is how you can reassure yourself as well, to see how many people has went to the hospital, try to read the reviews of the people that were there. Because I think the volume of people that they do SVT or even a fibrillation, which is a little bit more complex than us, already tells you about how competent your hospital is going to be, and that they know what they are doing. So I always trusted that they wouldn't try anything if they was going to see that it was too risky or too complex, that they wouldn't do anything and just stop it and tell me later and have a talk with me later. Since they saw that what I had was very common and that they knew where it was okay. And I think the thing that is most likely to be disappointing if they don't manage to trigger your crisis, which can happen. But it was a risk I was willing to take. So you have to rate the small risk that they are with quality of life. Do you support the medication that you are taking or not? This is a personal choice. But I hope what I managed to tell you today will help you make a better decision. So good luck for all of you that are going to go through the ablation. And I also send a lot of strength for all the people that live with SVT, because this is something that it's a little bit misunderstood, because it is not hard to, it's quite hard to diagnose and to live with it. So all the best for all of you, and I wish you the best in your life.